Now, we came here to it. This is the Jordan's home. If you go to one of your photos in the book, you'll see the boardwalk that comes around, and then it keeps on going down this way. Do you have that?
This one?
The east end of the boardwalk, right? Okay. Now, where that house is, that first house, that's here. Okay. Now, as you can see in the photograph, there really wasn't a lot of space between the end of that property and the ocean. I mean, it really, I think we've got more sand here now than that when that picture was taken. So I really don't know what's happening out there. Maybe we can figure it out someday, and hopefully our sand will come back further down. I don't know.
Well, this is Money Rock. Massachusetts has Plymouth Rock, and they've left it. But we have Money Rock, and they've taken it off. This is all we have left. Anne has explained to you about the natural history of the area. And this unique rock's location at Quonnie is a result of the Ice Age, when boulders were scattered all around and deposited in Rhode Island. They say every spring there's a new crop of rocks. But this Money Rock is rare. It has been written that there are only two like it have ever been found. One on the coast of South America, either Chile or Argentina, I don't know which, and the other in Australia. It's igneous rock formed in the early evolution of the world. They say by a shower of drops that came down on a molten mass, and when cooled, it made all these little round discs that are just similar to many coins. You probably can see it better in your postcard album. It was carried and deposited here during the Ice Age. It was very large at one time. That's why I said, thank goodness, Plymouth didn't allow that in Massachusetts. It was broken up and pieces carried off over the years. Now, Clifford Pendleton was an old native here, old-time native, and he wrote to my Aunt Nellie Clark in 1959. They're both deceased now. He wrote, there were 3 large pieces of this rock, 2 of them between 1.5 tons and the third about 3 tons that were carried off. One is in Smithsonian Institution at Washington, D.C. I don't know where the other one is. But he went on to say that his grandfather, Albert Pendleton, boarded the men who broke, crated, and carted the piece that was shipped to Smithsonian. In the early 1900s, the Crumbs owned quite a bit of the land here and cottages. And Erskine and Edward Crumb, sons of Alexander Crumb, who summered here in the summer, when in their teens, they were supplied with drills from their father's quarry in Westerly. They cut fragments of the remaining rock and distributed them around. One irate summer cottage owners threatened to shoot him, but that didn't deter him. They didn't hit him. No, I don't think he was born yet. This was in the early 1900s. But many appeared on the doorsteps of homes in Westerly, Charleston, and Westerly. My family had 2 of them. But these fragments that they cut off were reputedly, one was at Brown University, and at one time 2 pieces were displayed in the rock and mineral collection at Westerly Library. And I went down this summer to ask about what happened. One piece was supposed to have been polished and the other in the natural state, but they told me, the person I talked to said that he thinks several years ago the collection got so big that they sold it, they had to sell it, and he thinks possibly it might have gone to the Rhode Island Historical Society. My great-grandfather Green, who summited here from the 1870s and 80s, had one on his doorstep in Hope Valley, which I still treasure, and I cart around here for exhibits.
Okay.
But I still treasure after 100 years. But Grandpa Lewis, that had the store up here, Mother Brindley's, after his death, my Aunt Nellie Clark donated hers to the Cathedral of the Pines in Rindge, New Hampshire, where there's a collection of rocks all over the world. I've been up there recently and tried to find it, but I can't find that either. But I have in my collection a letter of thanks from the Cathedral of the Pines where they accepted it. More of this rock was removed in recent years. I think the DEM came down and got it, but the destination I've been unable to find out. So we treasure what remains here, and Donna takes very good care of it and comes down. In fact, from the picture in your little booklet, it shows it's practically covered up with sand at times. So it's a unique rock, and it's precious to me. If they ever take any more of it, there'll be a sit-in. I'll be down here. So.
I have my photo album.
Oh, good.
So if any of you want to look, I take pictures of this rock quite often. So it'll show it in the different stages. But we tried in the actual little booklet to put 3 photos of how it looks at different times with the sand and the erosion. But it's sort of our barometer to tell us what is really going on at the beach. But I'll leave this right here if any of you want to look at it.
See, there it is covered up. Oh, okay.
You all set?
I'm not set.
As a preliminary explanation, some of you know this, but Thomas Edison was known down here, and he actually became friends with a man over on East Beach and gave him a beautiful beech tree because of his friendship with him. And Thomas Edison just started a company that took the iron out of our sand and put it on barges and brought it down to the Hudson River and up to one of the steel mills there in Poughkeepsie, I think it was. So that went on for a little over a year, and it got to be so expensive that they decided, thank goodness, that they would curtail their business here. So that's the history behind iron in the sand.
And here's an example.
All right, here's,
I don't know.
as kids, and maybe you're still, your kids and your grandkids are still here.
We got that yesterday.
Yep. You take a magnet and you can put it through the sand, and there are patches of sand further down too that have a lot of iron in the sand, and extract the iron. So Holly's going to tell you a little bit about what it was like for her to be here when she was younger.
Okay, so the end of the boardwalk that we're talking about was about where that first house is. And that was the Campbell, what was called the Campbell Cottage. And it was there that the walk started, that you walked all the way down to the breachway. And you knew everybody, and everybody would be sitting on their front porches in their rocking chairs. And you would talk and find out what they'd done that day and what you had done. And then you would get the ghost stories from Mrs. Marsh on the way back. And, yeah. So after all of the houses were washed away except for the one on the point during the 38 hurricane. And we built in 53, we built a little one which was going to be a garage and a guest house, and we were going to build the big one up front. And before we could do that, the 54 hurricane washed that away. Good stories about that. I had just been to the sail in Watch Hill, and I bought this wonderful two-piece bathing suit, and it was on one of the beds. And lo and behold, when we paddled out in the pond, because the house ended up on the pond, there on one of the islands were both pieces. My daughter doesn't like it. I still wear it, and she makes noises about it. Where are you? Yeah, I still wear it. Oh, there she is. Yeah. So we, when that got washed away, we didn't do anything, and then Albert Pendleton came and did the house further back on the lot, and that's why we call it Albert Pendleton House. And he told us to plant all those wonderful those Japanese black pines that salt water doesn't bother them. So we have a lot of those. Oh yeah. I was in college, so I had to work in the summertime, and the old Quonnie Inn, where the nuns are now, needed waitresses, and so that's the best commute I ever had. I would barefoot. I would walk up there and do the breakfast waiting, and then I would come back and have a swim or two, and then I would go back up for lunch and dinner. Come back, and they still have some of the old ice boxes that they were good in those days. Yeah, still Picnic Rock. You can tell if you were young, you would call it Picnic Rock. If you were older and fished, you would call it Blackfish Rock. It really is a great little rock.
There've been weddings on Picnic Rock too. Some of they walked across the sand with their wedding gowns, barefooted, and had a wedding ceremony on the rock.
Now tell everyone thank you so much for coming this afternoon and learning